everyone, welcome back to another show of Reinventing Finance. As usual, I'm accompanied by my charming co-host, Tom. Tom, how are you this fine morning?
Thank you very much, Nick.
I guess that's your good.
Yeah, very good. Very
good. Also, as usual, we're not all by ourselves in our little virtual abode. We have Philippe Moulin with us. Hi, Philippe, how are you?
I'm very fine, thank you.
Awesome. Philippe, for those of our listeners, viewers, why don't you just briefly introduce yourself? Who are you and what do you do?
Myself, I have a technical background. I spent a lot of years in the automotive industry, especially doing research and development for automotive manufacturers. I was part of a research center called IFPEN when we worked on connected vehicles, and we thought a lot about how we can use the data that connected vehicles will generate. And in 2017, we ended up creating a company that was called Drive Quant. It was focused on the processing of driving data. So we were addressing all the mobility industry. And we focused a lot on collecting that data using smartphones. So we created an expertise on that. Little by little, we worked a lot more and more with the insurance industry. And now we are kind of a specialist of smartphone-based telematics for connected insurance. So since 2020, we have we have joined the group that is called Fair Connect, that is based in Switzerland, very active in Italy, that is developing connected insurance programs, mostly for motor insurance, with Generali, for example. But they also are working on connected home insurance and in the future, connected health insurance.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you so much. Let's maybe dig in on, and I'll leave it to you whether you know how quickly we want to segue into insurance, because it's obviously bigger than insurance, right? But what exactly is the market problem or the market problems that you set out to solve? So why does this matter, right? Why do we collect the data with the smartphones? What's the inefficiency, you name it?
Really, our approach at the start was an engineering approach. It was not driven by marketing. So we did the contrary, that what you should do. So you should start with the needs and try to develop a solution that answer a given need. And actually what we did, and because we were coming from a research and development background, is the idea was that we all know that in the future, cars generate a lot of data. Mm-hmm. And most of the actors in the industry today don't know what to do with that. So this data will probably generate new services and will help the industry to optimize current services. But there's a need to help everybody process the data, collect the data, process the data, understand it, and develop the services. So we really started from the technology, and we spent a lot of time, a lot of energy trying to discuss with different verticals in the mobility industry. So that includes insurance, but not only insurance. So we spoke with leasing companies, rental companies, mobility operators, driving schools, things like that. And there are needs everywhere. So, and basically, if you want to summarize that, it's with more data, you can understand better your operations, what's happening when the vehicles are moving, are driven. So by optimizing, that means you can act on the behavior of the driver, try to improve the efficiency, the energy efficiency. So that means the fuel consumption, reduce the fuel consumption, reduce the environmental impact of the trips. You can also improve the risk, so improve the safety. So that's road safety. But you can also help all the actors in the mobility industry to optimize their operations. So that means if you look at the insurance industry, for example, with more data, you have a better understanding of what's going on the road. So you can have a better assessment of the risk and better pricing. You can also improve the management of the claims, because you have a better understanding of what happened before the claims, after the claims, during the claims, the intensity. You can improve the process around assistance. So everything that was developed with the e-call, so the standard of connecting the vehicles, the new vehicles. So that is connected vehicle. So if you look at all the verticals, there are needs you can and the things you can improve, optimize using connected data.
I get that. I think it's still, I'm a simple guy. It's still a lot of could or can. So, 5 years in, what would you say are the top 3 use cases that you say, wow, this is awesome? Or, is something, and if it's, if it's not that clear, what needs to happen for it to be clearer? And, how do these things, how are adoption, what are go-to-markets, for, who do you normally talk to? You've talked to many, so to kind of, but maybe the top 3 use cases where you say, this shit was awesome.
So really, in our journey since the beginning, we talked with, so I said a lot of different verticals. The one we are insisting on now is the insurance industry. Mm-hmm. So because it's the one where you can see it's possible to set up a business model that makes sense for the insurer, for the policyholder, and for the provider, so for ourselves. Okay, so probably in 5 years' time, this is where we will see the most progress. And also since so 2017, what I saw is that at that time, it was really, well, connected insurance, telematics was an innovation. So there were conferences focusing really on this. Now it's not the case anymore, because everybody heard about connected insurance, about telematics. But if you look at what insurance companies have really implemented a big project with big volumes of connected vehicles, well, there's not a lot. So, nope. So there are some markets that are specific, like Italy, mm-hmm. A little bit in the UK, but I'm living in France. In France, the connected programs are very small, and it's still focused on niche, or at least it's innovation. And in 5 years' time, what I expect is that the projects that really succeeded on small volumes now will expand, and so the topics on which there is an interest that we see, it is confirmed, it's things like claims management, crash detection. So if you can detect a crash and improve the speed of the safety and of the safety services, and so that's a huge impact for the policyholder. Very interesting.
Okay, let's and I get that, and it's but then the claims people don't help getting the apps installed and the customers on, and I think wouldn't it be cool if everyone had this app, and then you can make these cases. So I think let's try to unwind this and kind of come from the policyholder and or the distribution channel that offers this to the policyholder. In your experience, is this more a retail or a commercial, right? Especially when you have app-based telematics rather than box-based telematics. Where have you seen more demand in your discussions?
Well, commercial insurance, I saw a lot of interest, but not many projects really starting. Okay, so everybody, it seems like everybody's thinking it's a good idea, but nobody's launching anything. So what I see today is that the projects that launch, it's in retail.
And I think, I mean, my limited exposure to this, but I think you need to kind of dissect commercial insurance. I think in let's say in these specific marketplace programs, Deliveroo, Uber, where they collect lots of data and where all of the drivers already have the connected devices as part of fulfilling their core services, I think you can actually create better insurance programs and more customized insurance programs. And that is the whole reason why insurtech players like Zego existed in the first place, to provide more tailored insurance for them. What we know from or what we've heard from commercial insurance is if you use traditional fleets where you are not using an app to fulfill your services that you could use, you have huge problems with oversight, with employee representation, because all of a sudden, right? And not maybe everyone wants it on their private smartphone or on you now have to, so at that point, and then even if you do certain commercial benefits, the management goes, in general, I'm not gonna fight this with my employee representation. It's not worth it. That battle is just not worth it. In retail, I think the premise can be different. I signed up for telematics program with the largest provider in Germany out of interest, to be honest. But we've also seen limited success. And one of the and there's a couple of points, but really I think it boils down to two. One, and I would love to hear your thoughts about this. One is that the rates of the market rates at both commercial but also retail insurance are already so low that some insurers do not want to just give a discount for upfront, because they're super unsure, and then they'll someone can leave again because they'll basically view that they'll give the discount, and then the good drivers, okay, they might stay, but some bad drivers that would have to be penalized leave before they can kind of get the updated rate, because then they'll just find someone else with a traditional contract. And this can be different, for example, in the UK, where as a young driver, your insurance premium can be equal or more than your car, right? Where it's really expensive, or in other countries. And the second thing is that a lot of, at least in Germany or other channels where you have a lot of personal advice driven, agents or broker driven sales, they just don't want to explain the technology. it's just this one thing where they go, and maybe this is done these days, right? But it's this added complexity of I need to explain them what a car insurance is, what a home insurance is, what a life insurance is, what a disability insurance is. And now there's this technical aspect to it. Those seem to be two key concerns. Have you encountered similar ones?
Yeah.
And what's your answer to it? Or are there others? Because the premise makes sense, right? You drive less, you drive safer, and you get, if you pay lower premiums if you do so. I mean, it sounds nice.
Yeah, so a few comments about that. So the point about the discount. A lot of people think about connected insurance like behavior-based insurance. Mm-hmm. So where you will have an impact on the underwriting, the pricing, and so you have to give discounts. And that works only on a niche where you have very high premiums. So you have room to give a discount to pay for the technology, and you still have a reasonable margin because you have positive selection and things like that. Well, what I think is that connected insurance is not only about discount, it's also about better operation. Like what we see in more mature markets, like in Italy, the data are used to improve the claims management, and not only for discounts. So if you want to address the part of the market which is the majority, where the premiums are where you don't have the margin that allow you to give discounts and to pay for the technology, you have other values that you need to exploit, like assistance, claims management. And the issue we see in less mature market is that since it's still an innovation, then most of the insurance companies will start with connected programs really on niche targets, propose discounts, and we are still there. So they're learning, they're trying to confirm the value that the technology can bring to them. And I think that at one point it will expand to other parts of the market with higher volumes, where the discount is not the only promise. If the only thing you give to your policyholder is a discount, it's value destruction, and it's not very interesting in the long term. So you need to have other improvements like claims management, but also prevention. We're working a lot on fuel reduction, so environmental impact. Okay, so there are other things to.
So I think,
and we are not at the end of the story yet. So and I think we are only at the beginning. And your point about the complexity of technology, so I agree about that, and I really think that we have to work a lot on this. We providers, because we are only at the beginning. So we have developed apps that are interesting, but they are not completely integrated in terms of customer experience in their ecosystem around mobility. They are not completely integrated in the IT or the insurer. So it's still a kind of a technology add-on. So that brings complexity, and that's a problem now. But we have to work on this and make it disappear. So it's when technology disappears that you find it's working the best.
So with the program I'm using, it has an app, but it has a little sensor. I think it's a some sensor I put on the windshield. I can connect it. I suppose it's a Bluetooth sensor or something. So I didn't have to do my OBD, whatever that's called. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to open my car. I'm that kind of person. I don't even know how to change oil. Don't care for it. And if, just don't want to deal with it. So that was actually quite simple. And, it's interesting. And I think the problem is a little bit, I would say another thing that I find quite cool is that you have this fuel efficiency thing. And I think that is something to make people more aware that can help now with fuel prices being higher than they used to be. And maybe generally also a different awareness, because it's not just about saving money. It's a little bit also about, doing the right thing. So I think that the calculation can be different. When you said, I think the problem is a little bit claims processes and claims promises don't sell. So everyone says that's the moment of truth. Da-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da. The truth, they just don't sell really well. But I think what you've mentioned is if it reduces, so I think some form of benefit in a otherwise highly competitive market where you feel, listen, I still get a good branded insurer at a good price, and I don't have to use the app unless the app itself provides me additional benefits on top of, a lower insurance premium. I feel making away fully without the discount would be tricky. I don't know. Because then I could just, I'm talking about telematics insurance. I'm not talking about fuel consumption, better management. That's just telematics. But that's not the, I think the insurance use case without some form of discount, I would imagine would be hard to sell because you're asking the customer to do something more. But yeah, I don't know.
No, well, if you try to collect data without any value for the policyholder, then you will have trouble. Okay, so you need to have an additional promise for him. So about the claims management. So yes, the benefit is more for the insurer, for sure. But you have also, if you are faster to settle the claims.
Totally. There is, in your loss ratios, also are claim settlement costs. It's not just the payouts, right? So if 60% loss ratio doesn't mean that 60% of the premiums are paid out. It's also the costs to internally and externally settle claims. And if you can save on that front, you can have a certain discount. I think you can also offer certain services. I get that. I would just, on a pure program that doesn't come with a discount on insurance, I personally, if I was responsible with an insurance company, I would not bet my career on that. I think there's better things to do. There's lower, there's better things you can do for your company, because it's not just because there's opportunity cost of doing this versus something else. I would focus on something else. I think, but it's okay. If you come with a discount, if you come with a holistic thing, but I feel that fuel consumption, to me, fuel consumption could be an interesting change in customer psyche that has developed over the last 6 months that could be leveraged too.
So to speak about that, so today there's more and more awareness about this topic. So when we started really, so coming from our research institute, our focus was on improvement of environmental impact, so reduction of fuel consumption. And we couldn't, so we had a lot of interesting talks with a lot of insurance companies around that, and they're all interested with this topic. But until now, we didn't really launch a project where this was the first focus. Okay, so we understand that there's a general awareness among the customers. They would be interested that an insurance company speaks to them about environmental impact. But an insurance company, if there's no impact on its loss ratio, it's difficult to justify to launch a project. And
so here's the
but there's a lot of interest because now they are asked to be more and more responsible in terms of environmental impact. And something I don't understand, I try to fight against that, is that if you look at what a lot of insurance companies say about their responsibility in terms of environmental protection, they do things, but most of the things they do, it's on their operations. So like you have a better recycling of paper, or you decrease the room temperature in your office, things like that. And what I don't understand is that without insurance, the vehicles would not move in. So you wouldn't have any traffic at all. Okay, so they are responsible for the vehicles, for the emissions due to the thermal vehicles. So they should have to do something.
So I think
there's a huge opportunity about that, just with prevention. Just what we showed in some of our when we organized changes around eco driving, we showed that we can have an impact. We can change the behavior of people, and that should be used by the insurance companies.
So I've had a few discussions exactly about that, right? ESG and greenwashing, etc., with insurance companies, and I feel that at the core of it, you can go. The main thing insurance can do is they can decide where to invest, right? I mean, they're the biggest asset managers, right? Then they can decide on their products, and what they can decide who to underwrite and what to do in case of a claim, largely, right? And some insurers, go start doing that. They stop insuring all rigs, etc., right? I don't think that insurers still, go, I'm not going to insure fleets. I think that would be a very big and potentially disruptive decision in their operations. But I think, that obviously could be a step. And then they do things, in their own operations. And one can say, why the heck do you do this? But I feel there's also a behavioral change to say, listen, every little step matters, as long as you don't believe that if you only have 5 measures, and if you do 5 measures on your operations, you cannot do the other 5 measures someplace else, right? If you feel that is what's happening, then you obviously say, no, let's focus on the majority of things. But I think there's some interesting analogies from behavior change, is that once you start becoming more healthy, more conscious, it perpetuates rather than you stop, at some point. But one thing that might be worth investigating is to start offering telematics as a additional service for insurers on tracking their own fleets or on tracking the customer, but on the premise of, hey guys, let's be more aware around fuel consumption, fuel reduction. This is a additional, it's an ESG, you might call it greenwashing measure. It, ultimately, won't get all the vehicles off the ground. And then afterwards, you can see whether you suggest telematics offers to those who come, so you don't have to play the discount game, because really what you're offering to your customers is become more aware. Here's a tool, here's a technology, and we help you be more aware for those of you who cannot or don't want to right now totally change their individual mobility habits. That could be your Trojan horse.
Yeah, well, Yeah, so I hope we will see programs and insurance companies that have this mindset. but today, what I see it is slow, and there are huge opportunities. For example, with a pay-per kilometers program. So that is typically a program where you offer a discount, so that's a kind of discount that is correlated with the usage of your car. So if you drive less, you have less impact on CO2 emissions, less CO2 emissions, and you have a lower insurance premium. So that's a very simple example of insurance programs that there are products that exist already, and it should be presented in this way. So I don't think it's greenwashing, because the impact is real. But and we have the tools to measure the impact on CO2 emissions. So really to be able to show to the policyholder, to the insurance company, how much they saved. And those kind of products could be a little bit invented. For example, like if you take your bike in the morning, you could have an insurance that if you have a problem with your bike, then you have a taxi to go back to your home in the evening, things like that. So that's very simple things that would help the policyholders in the change of their mobility habits, and that could be beneficial for everybody. So those kind. So we see that there are a few insurtechs that try to start programs that look like that. So the evolution from insurance of individual cars to insurance of your mobility, okay, and the impact on the environment is sure, but you need to measure it to be able to claim that.
So, sorry, Tom.
What I would like to know is, because you already mentioned Italy, the interesting thing also about telematics is that those countries or those different markets have developed on a different speed. So that's where I think Matteo Carbone from Italy always talks about telematics in Italy, that it's much more advanced. Can you say something about those different markets? Because you always hear Italy, but what other markets are very advanced, and what does this then really mean in practice? Because we're circling around all the time about, let's say, what's the real impact? That's the first question. And the second question is, if you can say something about more kind of less integrated approaches, which I think if you talk about mobility, you already mentioned, let's say, connecting a bike or taxi, etc., etc. The question is always, are there examples of connecting, for instance, with railways, or you see this also in Switzerland, but also in other countries, that, let's say, the railways, they enter those markets, and then they started to enter those markets of car rentals, etc. But you can go on and on. Are there also kind of connected solutions, so not isolated from just this whole idea of, let's say, insurance policy?
Well, I'm not sure about that. An interesting point about that is that so we spoke a little bit about technology, the complexity, so a few years ago, having a box in the car was really well, a lot of insurance programs were based on OBD dongles or connected boxes. That created huge problems because it's expensive. You have logistics and all that. So now the technology is more mature for smartphones. and that makes possible to launch programs with less expensive technology, easier to deploy. And for this kind of use cases, the smartphone really connects the users. It collects data related to the user and the way he's moving around, and it doesn't collect data about the car. And I think that's more relevant. That's one of the big advantages of smartphone-based solution. And at one point, your mobility, well, to choose if you should take a train, rent a car, or use a bicycle, and you can have all that with your smartphone, and you can collect data, and you can share data with third parties like insurance companies, and that should be embedded, integrated, and probably in the future we will see things like that. So,
but are there examples? Let's say, do you cooperate with, or are there examples from different countries where there is cooperation going on? Let's say between, let's say, railway companies, for instance.
No,
Let's say if you want to talk about mobility in general, or if you want to talk about, let's say, efficiency of using a car. I mean, a car is just very inefficient because it's most of the time it's just standing somewhere in a parking lot, which doesn't make sense. So if you zoom out in this whole mobility topic and redefine mobility, then my question would be, okay, are there any? And I know some examples. So I know example of, let's say, mobility is also called mobility, where you have car rentals because it makes sense that where people travel long distances, then they're able to take a rental car at the train station, as an example, and they can be separate entities. But the interesting thing is if those things get connected, or if you travel by train in the Netherlands, you have a possibility of renting a bike integrated in your railway ticket at every Dutch railway station. So this kind of connectivity, because the technology is already there. And then the question is, who is moving with what kind of strategic power to change this whole mobility game? Are there examples, or is this just not the case?
Well, in France, I see. Well, there are examples also, like well, in Paris, you have the mobility operators that operate the bus and the underground.
Yeah.
They have services to rent bikes.
Yeah, I know.
So you have things like that.
But you don't do this, or you don't combine this. You don't talk to the French railway authorities by, let's say, using your technology.
The other example I have in mind is the company called BlaBlaCar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they have developed an insurance offer.
Mm-hmm.
And their approach was very interesting. It's the reason why they did that is because first their competition is, for example, the train.
Mm-hmm.
When you take the train, you are safe. You know that you will not have any accident.
Mm-hmm.
When you take somebody else's car, then you're not sure. So you need to work on the safety around the service. And also, they could measure that if you drive somebody in your car, if you have a passenger that you don't know,
mm-hmm.
you're more cautious. So the behavior of the people change. So they are convinced that they are a position to explain, to coach the drivers, and to show them that sometimes they are more careful than other times, and they could change their behavior, have an impact on the environment and on the safety as well.
Philippe, it's actually interesting. I think, well, from listening to you, and I think that is, I would not invest in anyone who says, I'm going to change someone's behavior. I think that is just really tough. But what you're saying is that we can pre-select, at least that's what I'm hearing, pre-select a customer segment that, because they're in a situation, which is the BlaBlaCar situation, that customer behavior is already changed, but it's not accounted for in a normal insurance policy, because it is different. You drive differently when you're by yourself, with your family, or, you know, as you've said, a passenger. And that's the interesting thing, that a certain program allows you to select a different customer group. Now, arguably, if you might nudge them in a certain way, but I feel it's really hard, you know, if I'm in any discussion with anyone or someone, let's just change customer behavior. I was like, guys, I'm out. You do this by yourself. I'm not gonna. Well, as an insurance company.
what we saw in our programs is that on something that is very easy to understand, like a driving distraction. So if you incentivize people, we organize changes and we give them rewards if they are depending on their ranking at the end of the change. Okay, if you incentivize people, telling them stop touching your phone while driving, or stop calling while driving. So this is very clear, very specific. Well, we see that some of the people do it.
Okay.
So not everybody, but you can argue that that's a positive selection also. Okay, but we see that on this kind of message that is pushed also by the authorities in France and probably in other countries. This message: try not to use your phone while driving. You can do that with smartphone telematics. And we see that the behavior of the people can change. And what we are trying to understand is when do you have to push the message, which is the right message to have the most impact. Okay, but on things very simple like that, we see that the behavior of it is possible to change the behavior, and driving distraction is one of the cause of the accidents nowadays. Okay, so this is a very important point. Okay, well, so
but it's always very isolated. So what I mean, I know these technical discussions, and it's as it started with those boxes. If you really want to get the accidents down, you travel a long distance by train, and then it's all about connecting public transport, as an example. Or if you want to get accidents down in cities, you need different kind of infrastructure. You need more bike lanes. Take Netherlands as an example. Nobody uses a helmet. Why? Because the infrastructure is totally different. Do you drive your bike in Paris? You have to you need a helmet because nobody is used to it. I mean, they are changing this now, Hidalgo, but so I'm much more interested in what kind of real game changers are there. So I actually think that if you take about mobility, the cars is the most inefficient solution whatsoever, because I don't know how many % of the time a car is not driving. So
90 to 95%, I think.
So I think it could be totally interesting because of those technology if you have kind of integrated, let's say, mobility tickets. And you just go from A to B, no matter what combination of transport you have, and you just add those examples, and then you are secured, or you have your insurance for I don't know what can happen in a train, but nothing happens. Then you take the car, then you are insured automatically, and then I don't know if you want to take the bike from a station in Paris, then you're also secured, so to say. You have your insurance. And then you can even come with different price models. So integrating all those different aspects there are, like those mini scooters and e-bikes, etc. And I don't see any integrated offer yet. It's all competing against each other, so to say.
Yeah. But part of what,
Or am I just not
but
familiar enough with the whole topic?
I think part of what you said is has to do with the regulators and the organization of the transport system. So it's, well, I agree about the ultimate goal of trying to optimize all that. I don't know if we have a role to play there. Part of what you said is about the insurance, an insurance offer of that could be global. So to
multimodal, global, yeah.
Yeah, so it could cover you when you take the train, when you take the bike, when you take your car. So I see really the premises of that. So some of startups we are discussing with are trying to work on this idea. And even more established insurance companies are trying to think about that. The main problem, and it's a problem general with connected insurance, is there's a reluctance to change. So today the insurance companies are organized by verticals, and we are speaking to the people in charge of motor insurance. They insure personal vehicles. And so the change will take quite a long time.
But you're pretty advanced in France. That's why I came up with the topic. So France is very much advanced with the TGV and the whole train system.
Yeah.
BlaBlaCar is a leading company. And you have also from a political point of view, if you see what happens in Paris, you're also very advanced. So I thought just with the kind of distance, I thought, okay, just combine those. But what you always see is that let's say BlaBlaCar, they try to do it themselves. But in the end, I mean, for a moment it works, but you're much more the specialist for that topic. So I would say, okay, when BlaBlaCar just cooperates with you and leaves the telematics part to you, and then you at the railway, you have an excellent model, and you are probably I wouldn't say leading, but at least you have a very, very strong also political position towards this topic, and then you can really make a change.
Well, I would be no, that's very interesting.
Let's make an appointment with Hidalgo and general how is it called, the CEO of the French railway systems, but no, I'm just joking.
Yeah, but it's yeah, there's a change management that needs to be done in big insurance companies, in the big transportation companies. So all this,
am I just too positive?
To say, it's difficult to see today a company like ours, how we can make a business in multimodal, insurance. No, it's not big enough. It's a topic that a lot of people are interested in, but today in reality, the connections between the operators is not really in place, and it will take time.
Yeah, I think, I mean,
okay,
it's there's certain things that I think private markets are better at, and then there's certain things that public policy is better at, and creating and enforcing a multimodal mobility change. I would say it's probably driven by policy. Having said that, I do also question whether the insurance companies are the right people to drive that, simply because what you've just said, I mean, not using your car for 90% is priced into an insurance policy. It's priced in. I mean, just because you now have lots of different data, a lot of the things are also implicit by just looking at what happens. So, you have, it's not perfect, but you have how many kilometers do you drive, and that's part of your insurance policy. So there's lots of things implicit, because that's just what you know, the loss data shows you. Just conscious of time, and I'll get you off that, explaining to us the differences and best practices across all and every telematics market, and why it's, you know, working in Italy and UK and US differently than in some continental European countries. But is there a kind of, as a last question, is there a question or a topic that you feel is not covered in this discussion that should be answered, and that would actually help, would be significant ideally in helping the adoption rate of telematics and all the aforementioned benefits that that would provide? No is a perfectly acceptable answer to that question, by the way.
What I think really, there's something that is underestimated by the insurance company is so really the change management. So integrating telematics in programs that are not just innovation, proof of concept in a niche segment. It requires integration deeply in the IT of the insurance company, in their operations, and the change management of the people running the insurance business is something that is very important. And I think that the success of companies like Unipolsai in Italy, it's because they really took the topic and thought about how they do insurance. And so telematics is integrated deeply in what they're doing. You mentioned also Matteo Carbone, speaking about Italy. He speaks a lot also about discovery and vitality. And I think that's two very good examples on how a company managed to make a success from connected programs. So the value that you can create with connected programs, if you want really to exploit that at its full potential, it's a long journey for insurance companies, and for success, it requires a commitment of all the management and really the will to change the operation on a big scale. And it's not something that we've seen a lot, in France and in most of the European markets. So
well, let's
really,
be more hopeful for the next 5 years.
It just takes time, and in the last 5 years, I saw a lot of improvements, because 5 years ago, really, everybody they didn't know what to choose between OBD dongles, black boxes, smartphone. So now it's very different, and the maturity is much better everywhere. Most of the insurance companies have started something, launched the first experimentation at least, and probably in the next 5 years it will scale. So some of them will manage to scale programs.
Awesome. Hopefully with your help. Conscious of time, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, and Philippe for your insights, and Tom, as usual, for helping us zoom out a little bit. I wish both of you a lovely day, and obviously everyone listening or watching this, and see you on the circuit. Gents,
Thank
have
you
a good
very
one.
much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.